Welcome back, Shop Rats. Today we're going to answer some viewer questions that were in the comments after my unboxing video on New Year's Day. They're great questions, and I thought it was worth doing a Talk About It Tuesday episode about. Let's watch the show intro. We'll see you in just 5 seconds. I'm Mike. This is
Buy Cars Shop.
Channel viewer Terry always asks great questions, and I'm not giving the full viewer name. You can look in the comments and figure out who I'm talking about if you really need to know, and of course that person knows who they are. But anyway, there's always great comments, and on New Year's Day's episode, when I was unboxing all of the parts that I got from Just Mopar Joe and some things that I had purchased, and then unveiling the valve grinder and valve seat grinders, he asked great questions, and there was a long missive there with questions and comments and so forth, and I thought rather than trying to write out all the answers, it was a great Talk About It Tuesday. So let's get into those comments and questions. The first question was, what kind of oil is used in the valve grinder? Now, the official valve grinding oil is a mineral spirits based, or a mineral oil based, I should say, oil, and it's about $20 a gallon and blah, blah, blah. I will eventually order that. What I'm currently using, which is a suitable substitute, is Dexron automatic transmission fluid. Now, some of you may go, oh, wait, it's kind of a thing that a lot of people choose to use. It's a fairly low lubricity oil that does a real good job of helping polish those valves. But I will get the correct oil at some point. The second question in that first section of questions was about the stones that are used. The pink stones, by memory, are about an 80 grit stone, and it's a very specific stone manufactured for valve grinding. It's not just a stone that you can go pick up at your local Harbor Freight or Home Depot or even local auto parts store. You would have to order that from a specialty warehouse like the place that I'm going to mention or that I did mention actually in a video that came out about me fixing or fabricating a new oil catch tray for the valve grinder. I think that episode has aired. If it hasn't, it's going to. The next question that was asked was about grinding valve seats. The question was, do you submerge the heads in oil, or do you use an oil on the valve seats? And the answer to that is generally no, you don't. You do the seats dry because you're going to lap the valves in with lapping compound later, and that will give it its final polish. Now, there are some guys that will do them both dry and wet. I suppose there are some people that do them wet. I'm not familiar with that particularly. It's the way I was taught way back in tech school was you just grind them dry and then you lap them in, and that will do the job. I am just trying to answer the questions in the order they were asked. The next question was about the valve springs. Those valve springs are for testing and measuring purposes only. They're way too weak to be using in an engine. There's an episode, if it hasn't aired yet, it will be airing. I believe by the time you see this, it will have aired, about using those valve springs to measure the valve train and so forth for installed height and open height and that kind of stuff to help us determine what valve springs we're going to need. And in that video, I go through kind of the requirements for the spring pressure. So with those dimensions, knowing that installed height and open height of the valve, we'll be able to spec out the valve springs that we need. The reason you use those is because it's just a whole lot easier to put that cam exactly where you want it. If I had used the factory springs, the tension would cause the cam to flip, and it'd be very hard to get it to stay at the top of the cam lobe to get the dimensions that we need. The next question that was asked was about valve guides and valve seats. And as long as the guides measure, which we did that episode on the Friday before New Year's Eve, measuring the guides, if it needs valve guides or valve seats, that is work that I will take to our local machine shop to get done. And I believe I had listed the prices in one of the videos about what that would cost to do. There are 3 ways you can do it. I believe these heads, as one of the other viewers pointed out, these heads have cast iron guides, so you can't knurl those. You need soft material to knurl guides. And so they would need to be bronzite guides to be able to do knurling and reaming to get them to the correct size. So I got to double check that. But so far from what we saw in that one episode, the guides are acceptable. I will go through and measure them more clearly and more accurately as we go forward. But from what I saw, I think our valve guides are going to be just fine. But if we do need to have them replaced, we will take it to our local machine shop and have that work done. Valve seats is the same thing. I don't intend to cut seats and replace seats and so forth. I could do that, I suppose, but some work is just better to have somebody that has all of the latest and greatest equipment and have them do it. But I'm excited that most of the heads that I'm going to be working on aren't going to need seats and guides, and we'll be able to just do our valve jobs in-house now. So that's pretty cool as far as I'm concerned. The next question was about the knife edge on the valve, and I didn't make that clear in the video. You do not grind a margin back onto a valve. If the margin is gone when you dress the valve is junk, because if you were to grind that on there, what happens is the valve gets smaller and it no longer is in spec. So there is a dimension on the valve head that the valves are supposed to be, and that margin, of course, is part of that dimension. So I don't remember exactly what that margin is. It's like a 1/16 of an inch or 3/32 of an inch, or I don't know, something like that. But no, you don't regrind a margin on a valve. You're correct that the valve would seat too far into the valve seat, and that would screw up valve train geometry. There is a spec also on where the valves are supposed to be. I don't know that anybody actually measures it. By experience, you look at them and you go, yeah, that's fine, or it's not fine. The one good thing about a mechanical valve train like we have in this engine is, if a valve is sunk, you could compensate for it, but obviously we're not going to do that. And if it's a hydraulic non-adjustable type of valve train, then of course the valve is going to be held open, and you're not going to have compression on that cylinder, or you're going to have premature valve wear or whatever. So no, you do not grind the valve to put margin back on. If it's got a knife edge, it goes in the trash can. The valve that I've been using was already junk, and I just keep practicing with it and figuring out the machine and figuring out settings and so forth. I don't care if I grind that down so like it's a pencil. It's fine. The final comment was about the project going faster than was expected and could possibly be hearing the engine run. And the answer to that is it's kind of on hold at this point, as you probably have seen in the videos by now. What I've been doing on this 413, 426 project is gathering intel, figuring out what I need, to yet purchase, and of course I need to gather cash, because when it comes to boring this motor out and oversizing it to 62 thousandths required to make it a stock bore 426, that's going to require a fair whack of money. I believe the pistons are about $800, and the price for boring I listed in that video where I talked about that. I don't remember what it is offhand, but we're looking at a couple $1,000s by the time we do that, and buy valve springs. I still need to get the block sonic checked to be sure that we can bore it 62 thousandths to put standard bore 426 pistons in it. And the second thing we need to do is get the block checked, make sure it's good, as well as making sure that there are no pits in that block that are deeper than what we're going to be cutting, because there are some fairly deep pits. I did have the thought of cleaning up the stock pistons, throwing a set of rings on it, and running it just as it is, just because I could. I'm not saying I'm not going to do that, just for fun. We'll see. I don't know, but the ultimate goal is going to cost me a couple $1,000s, and so all the work that we've done up to this point is intel gathering so that we can know what to be looking for, because as I've mentioned in other videos, one of the things we do is really scour trying to find inexpensive parts that will work for the project. I know not long ago I did run across a set of forged pistons, standard bore 426 for $400. Guy had them. They were on the shelf and he didn't use them. I didn't pick them up because I haven't done the checking on the block, and that would basically be a waste of money until 100% I know that we can bore that. So we will either take the block to get it sonic checked, or we will sonic check it ourselves. I'm thinking about doing it myself, but I got to do a little research, and that takes time, and that's something I don't have much of right now. All right, thanks for that. I appreciate it, and we're over on the Face thing. Instant Grandma Loves Us does the cookie thing and all of that. / My Car Shop. We're here on YouTube, and the biggest thing you can do is, of course, like, subscribe, comment on the videos, drop comments over on the community tab, all of that stuff. But the biggest thing that you can do to help the channel grow is just spread the word. If you're enjoying this, share the videos with other people that you know would enjoy it as well, and just let's keep growing the MKS community. It's really exciting to see what's happening. All right, that's going to do it for this one. Rock!